Welcome back to the Eric Krown Crypto channel, wishing you a happy and healthy start to this Saturday morning over here. As I wanted to go over a bit of the shorter term timeframes, a follow-up of yesterday's short-term timeframe analysis, what essentially the stats are saying over the weekend, and then more importantly, a thread through on the daily as to what and when to expect that next 20% move, of which probably coming in within these next few weeks here. I'd say 2 to 3 weeks. Other than that, I want to give a massive shout out to all the people I've been meeting in Dubai. It's been absolutely lovely. There's too many people now to count. Not that that's a very good way of putting it, but all I can say is that it's been an absolute pleasure, and it's really been nice. So if you do see him around, it's all good. Just come and have a chat if you want to. If you don't, that's all good as well. And other than that, I'd like to once again remind you that if you find this content valuable or in some way useful, or just for whatever reason, please do consider tapping the supply button, and then we can get on with our lives. So let's just jump right on over here. I want to start off with the 4-hour HPDR ranges, similar to yesterday. Now we'll go back into the lower term time frames. So we'll talk about yesterday's setup, but first and foremost on the 4-hour time frame, which probably going to be the weekend range, is showing what? It's showing a low at about 22.8. It's showing a high at about basically 24, just above 24, and a median kind of where we're at right now at about 23,450. So, looking at things through that lens, I would expect sideways within that range, and Bitcoin to probably settle, by end of weekend right around the median. With that said, I wanted to now follow up on the short-term time frame, the hourly setup that we were looking at yesterday. So yesterday we were looking at this particular setup over here, where the chart continues to load for fucking eternity and makes me want to absolutely masturbate with sandpaper. Come on, TradingView. Yes, that's it. You just have to complain, and then they give you what you want, I guess. Terrible way to go through life. Anyways, yes, so the setup was this. Closing below the blue 50% of historical returns range lows, coupled with a decline in volatility, close of closure, represented by the BBWP indicator over here, initiates a setup, which traditionally speaking does have a higher probability, although not a certainty, to try a move to the upside. Now we actually did get a short-term move to the upside, but realistically, nothing really happened right here. And in fact, we did even see a very small closure below that 23 or 23,400 level that we were looking at yesterday to define as a failure, which is actually just as valuable as knowing the stats for an upside, because we can go ahead and look at the stats over here, of which, we're already on the hourly. So yes, with this particular setup, out of 50 iterations, 36 played out with a short-term upside bounce, giving it a 72% strike rate. And more importantly with this, when it does fail, we can essentially forecast the average return for that, as well as the average return for, when it succeeds. In success terms, typically about 2.20 on average, versus failure at about 2.40. Keep these numbers in the back of your mind, and then of course, the time on the win and the loss. In this case, obviously we're getting, we're way far away from the time that you do expect on a win. So I would say that the probabilities are starting to shift in favor of this one turning to the downside. Anyways, if we are going to be measuring this out, when in doubt, measure it out, I guess. If we are going to be looking at a downside move, about 2.25% would put Bitcoin where? It would put Bitcoin right around about $23,000. Which I do think is rather interesting, because that is going to line up with a few other things a little bit later. Until then, I actually do kind of lean a little bit more towards that, simply because, we did see a small closure below right there. Although not really anything super convincing, especially seeing as it was alongside an event which, a lot of the time will kind of fuck around with these setups. If you do see an upside move, well, guess where? About 2% to the upside. Oh, what do you know? That's just above that $24,000 number. Same and in alignment with the 4-hour range highs right here. So I do think that Bitcoin's more or less range bound for the weekend, and we're probably gearing up for a setup coming into next week. Anyways, moving on now, I wanted to go over here into our regular charts. Start off with, we could go over to the daily time frame. The daily bearish divergence that we were looking at on CME actually did get confirmed here. So coming into next week, or I guess over the weekend, maybe early next week, probably do look for a short-term downside move. The easy target is about 23 in this case. The more difficult target in this case would be the overall range lows at about 22.6, 22.7-ish region. But seeing as CME is not trading over the weekend, we can go and reference spot price action over here. 12-hour time frame continues to put in another drive of regular bearish divergence. So we got 1, 2, 3 coming off the highs. Easy target on that one's right around a little bit above 23 in this case. 6-hour time frame. Oh, what do you fucking know? Same thing as well. Except, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4 drives coming off the highs right here. So ultimately, I probably am looking for a little bit of weakness to maybe come over the weekend or early into next week, but I'm not necessarily looking for a breakdown, to be quite frank with you. We can also go and reference stochastic momentum. Oh, by the way, I should denote, however, on the 4-hour time frame, there is potential hidden bullish divergence building up right here. Won't be confirmed until Bitcoin closes back above about 23.5, but at that point, yeah, you're probably going to see a move towards just under 24. Anyways, let's go and reference stochastic momentum. 12-hour time frame will actually turn down freshly with any sort of a closure below 23,740, which it's a healthy $400 below right now. 6-hour time frame is also going to be showing downside below 23,666, the devil's dick number right there. Very, very bad, an ominous figure. And the 4-hour time frame is nosediving below 23.7. So you're kind of seeing a lot of those numbers pop up in the same place. I mean, even the hourly is down, I think, as well. It is down, but it's actually going to potentially pop up here, 23,320. Just as an aside, the hourly actually is like really good over the weekends. Many things, in my opinion, don't have a great hit rate over the weekend, but the hourly, for whatever reason, does. Just as an aside. Anyways, that's just a long way of saying, hey, we're probably looking at sideways bullshit action. And I imagine that most people on this channel, most people just in general, are interested in the very, in the big moves, the big girthy moves, the big girthy red and green dildo moves. Christmas time is what it seems like to me. And in this chart over here, I wanted to go over a daily setup that is slowly brewing. When I say slowly brewing, I should probably first explain the setup, huh? Makes no sense without context. Anyways, low volatility, represented by this indicator, the BBWP indicator, getting below 10 percentile or more over the history of Bitcoin, going back for the last 5 years, which has actually had plenty of iterations, has produced some pretty impressive moves coupled with the stochastic oscillator's direction upon volatility expansion. So basically what I'm looking for is something, similar to these over here. It, could be a little more sharp like we saw over here in September, but basically a small stint below the 10 percentile number right here, and then it pops back up, gets above the moving average. At that point, we're probably looking at somewhere between like a 15 to 25% move. We can go ahead, or I can go ahead and show you the stats based upon this, where basically we can go over here for both the long and the short side on the daily. I've actually done both of them out, although I did not write this correctly, and my OCD is giving me massive compulsions right now. How dare you, Eric? Like, you idiot, you fucking moron. It's a great self-talk, by the way. Really, really good. This is really healthy. It's like I always read like all these fucking life coaches and shit like, don't avoid negative self-talk. It's like negative self-talk is the best thing ever, man. Because otherwise, it's like, what? I'm great because I wrote the wrong thing. Like, no, I'm not. Changes need to be made. Doesn't mean you're a terrible person, but changes need to be made. Anyways, more onto a tangible note over here. So basically this one is a brewing, and as you can see, it's probably going to spend a little bit more time below this 10 percentile number. So I do suspect that at earliest we could see this start to fire off maybe around end of next week. And maybe more reasonably the week after that, which I do think there's some sort of a CPI print coming around that time frame, which would make sense, Until then, however, I should say that there's a big focus, or at least I will have a big focus on where the daily stochastic oscillator is positioned, because once volatility expansion does happen, the direction of the daily stochastic oscillator has a high probability to move in that direction. In fact, to the upside, it was incredibly high. 12 out of 14 iterations moved in the direction to the upside when it was postured in that way. I also disclose that there's 4 failures where it moved to the upside, but just not that much, like less than 10%. For the short side, a little bit lower of a hit rate, 13 out of 19 moved in the downside direction, giving it just under 69%. Nice. 3 failures there with moves less below 10%, although they still did move in that direction. And you'll notice that the average return for these is going to be 20%, 20.5% on the short side, and about 20.25% on the on the upside. So very, very close to each other. So let's just assume that Bitcoin's probably going to stay within this range until then. And when I say this range, I mean lows at 22.4, highs at like 24, just above 24 on a daily closing basis. Well, we can start to measure this one out. If it does indeed come to the upside, What would 20% on top of current price action look like? That would be a clean shot to 28,000 bucks. What's interesting about 28,000 bucks is that's actually one of the major CME gap olas coming in from the major breakdown that we saw in June, right in between about 27 to 28 or so. So that would be an area of interest, certainly. By the same token, if we go back over here to the downside, if it does come from these highs, probably looking somewhere back down, at least like low 21s on what I would consider a failure, probably more reasonably at around 20,500 bucks. I still stay with what I've been saying for a while now, though, in the sense that I do think that major lows are in for a long time here. And if Bitcoin were to come down, I think that would probably be an opportunity, all things considered. I really don't look at this as like concerning to the downside long term, like retesting current lows and making new lows until Bitcoin starts to close back down below like 20,000 bucks, let's say, just make it a nice round even number. So I think that's a good place for me to be leaving off on this particular video. Once again, forgot to talk about the good old Bybit shill. There we got a shill link. We got a shill link in the description, of course. 0% on maker fees for derivative contract orders. Other than that, I want to be wishing you the best of the best as always. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully soon.